Welcome to episode 70, Phil Knight, Leading Nike to Global Domination. This is an outline of episode 70. There are two reasons why we study Phil Knight. First, he's the second richest fashion self-made billionaire in the world after Amancio Ortega, who I already covered. Second, he has built the world's most dominant sports brand or fashion brand, Nike.
A brand so powerful, so dominant, it's known around the world.
This was the scene outside a New York City shoe store in 25-degree weather. Customers eagerly awaiting the new sneakers' limited release. Some had been in line for 5 days.
If you want to get your hands on them, that's what you got to do.
He was born in Portland, Oregon in 1938. At age 17, he attended the University of Oregon. He was a star runner, just shy of the best.
That hope first flickered here at storied Hayward Field at the University of Oregon, where Knight was a mid-distance runner. He just might have been the smartest.
The company mission to make great shoes for remarkable athletes was established by the two men who founded what was first called the Blue Ribbon Sports Company, Phil "Buck" Knight and Bill Bowerman. When they met in the mid-1950s at the University of Oregon, Knight was a 17-year-old middle-distance runner.
Bill Bowerman was Knight's coach. He was obsessed with tearing apart track shoes and reassembling them, creating sort of a Frankenshoe of his very own.
Goatskin, and so they would just have almost no form in the upper, and then he'd get a spike plate taken off another shoe and then glue it on. They were pretty ugly, but they were light, and I was one of his guinea pigs, and that kind of planted a seed.
Nike is the Greek goddess of victory.
What was the name you wanted?
No, Dimension 6.
Dimension 6, which no one...
It'd be a hard time fitting on a heel tab, wouldn't it?
Why Dimension 6?
Well, there was a fifth dimension, right? So we wanted to be an extra dimension.
But no one bought that idea.
Nobody liked it.
Mercifully, an employee proposed another name, Nike, the Greek goddess of victory. But Knight wasn't crazy about it, nor did he like the logo. The wing, as it was called then, a design he actually paid a college student just $35 to draw, was supposed to symbolize the sound of speed. But Knight thought it just looked like a big fat check mark.
Nothing ever stands out and says, boy, that's it. There's not a eureka moment that, for me, that in almost all these things, I just say, okay, that's the best we can do, let's go.
The idea of Nike manufacturing athletic shoes in Japan and selling them in the United States was first written down in a course paper by Phil Knight while he was working towards his MBA at Stanford University. In a course on entrepreneurship taught by Professor Frank Schallenberger. He got an A for the class. More importantly, he said there was a part of him that was born there. He found his calling.
And all the best shoes were being made in Germany, and it made no sense that you would make shoes, Addidas and Puma. Make no sense that they'd be made in Germany. So I wrote the paper about they should make them in Japan, and the idea built and built and built, and it became a crazy idea to everybody but me and my college.
Making a lot of money was never his goal. His goal was to make better shoes to help athletes. The best running shoes in the 1960s were made by Addidas, which was founded in 1924, and Puma, which was founded in 1948. Nike was created in 1971. Nike did not go public until 1980.
There was a part of me that was born here. I had come here at age 22, a bit lost. For me, an extrovert was a person who stared at other people. Shy, insecure, unsure of what I wanted to do with my life. 2 years later, I left, much better educated. I was still shy and insecure, but I knew what I wanted to do if only I could pull it off. And that was to bring to life the business plan written in Frank Schallenberger's entrepreneurship class.
Knight wrote a paper outlining a strategy of manufacturing running shoes in Japan where the labor was cheaper.
Well, ever since I wrote it, it was sort of ticking away in there. It just kept kind of growing.
After graduating, Knight put his paper into action, convincing a Japanese company to let him distribute their brand of running shoe, called Tigers, here in the U.S. He began selling them out of the trunk of his car. His initial investment, $1,000, that he split 50-50 with his new partner and former coach, Bill Bowerman.
Here's a picture of Bill Bowerman. Here's a picture of the young Phil Knight.
Masaru Hayami, the president of Nisho Iwai. As we increased our volume, we became Nisho Iwai's most profitable customer in the world. We developed a friendship, and for 5 years in a row, I spent a weekend with him and his wife at their beach cabin near Atami, which wasn't just a pleasant weekend. It was also a tutorial on business and leadership.
Here's a picture of Masaru Hayami.
ただ現在の日本経済にとって先ほども申し上げましたようにこの景気の回復と金融システムの立て直し
and senior managers have fallen away. The lonely victor of the sporting brand battle has been Phil Knight himself.
Crisis number 1. He almost got bankrupt after he was kicked out by 2 of the largest banks in Oregon. We
were no longer limited to track and field shoes, so we brought in wrestling shoes, tennis shoes, basketball shoes as well. Sales grew to $3.2 million, but we had our first ever loss. Plus one other little problem. We got kicked out of our bank. Too much leverage, not enough cash. The state of Oregon only had 2 big banks, and we've been thrown out of the other one 2 years before.
Crisis number 2. The U.S. government assessed a $25 million custom duty on Nike. After 3 years of litigation, he cut it down to 1/3, which was $9 million. The company almost died and ceased to exist.
At the top of the morning mail, letterhead said, United States Customs. The announcement that this is an important letter. It turned out to be so. Attached was an invoice for past due customs duties of $25 million.
The big gamble. Nike put all his cash, $500,000, to bet on Michael Jordan.
Sonny Vaccaro, who convinced insiders they should spend everything they had to sign Jordan.
I said, well, what do we have? And we have about $500,000 to spend, you know. And I said, well, give it all to the kid, give it all to Jordan.
You first signed Michael Jordan. People thought you were nuts, right?
Well, Fortune magazine ran a story about how Nike has lost its way by paying so much money.
Nike also offered Jordan his own signature shoe line, a promise Adidas wouldn't match.
They didn't feel like it was worth it, you know, which in hindsight is perfect for me because it made my decision that much easier, and I ended up with Nike.
But along with the style and popularity of the Air Jordans came an industry-high price tag of more than $100 a pair. In the late 1980s, there were muggings, even murders over the shoes.
Crisis number 3, the sweatshop and the human rights violation in the 1990s.
His use of cheap overseas labor, while economical, proved disastrous in the field of public relations. In the 90s, Nike was accused of fostering sweatshop labor. Human rights organizations even called for boycotts of Nike products.
Initially, your reaction to it, you said, was making things worse. You were a little defensive about it.
It was, yeah. We tried to find the best factories we could to work with. And, you know, good shoes come out of good factories. The fact that they could be better was what we should have concentrated on, what we ultimately did concentrate on.
Now, the sneakerheads, they will pay any amount.
Coveted by sneaker collectors, known as sneakerheads. Like Chicago salon owner Melo Rosario, $1,000 to $2,000 a month.
At the height of your craze, what percentage of your disposable income were you spending on shoes?
All of it, except for my mortgage.
In 2003, he paid $305 million to acquire Converse Shoes, a 95-year-old company known for its inexpensive canvas sneakers. Converse was a shoe giant that lobbied the U.S. government to slap a $25 million custom duty on Nike in the late 1970s. Converse almost killed the infant Nike. In April 2016, he published his memoir, Shoe Dog.
Well, 50 years ago, Phil Knight was a struggling shoe salesman begging bankers for cash, selling Japanese sneakers out of the trunk of his car. Today, and for the first time ever, Phil Knight is telling his story, his memoir, Shoe Dog.
What have I learned today? His journey from a shy and insecure teenager to the creator of Nike took more than 50 years. On the way, Phil Knight was inspired and helped by many. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and leave your comments and questions below. My next video will be Phil Knight 10 Lessons. Wishing everyone peace and prosperity.